London, England, south of France, and all points between, they know about your man. Konnichiwa, ladies, when I'm out in Japan. I'm a Tokyo giant like Ichiro, I am.
Welcome to another edition of the Lifestyle Design Confessions podcast. We're here to help inspire you to go for it and live the lifestyle design of your dreams. Here's Rob.
Welcome to another episode of the Lifestyle Design Confessions podcast. Today we have David Siteman Garland on the line. For those of you who don't know who David is the creator and host of the podcast The Rise to the Top, which is a very cool, fluff-free interview-style show. He's interviewed everybody from Patty Stanger of The Millionaire Matchmaker to Tim Ferriss of The 4-Hour Workweek. He's written a fantastic book called Smarter, Faster, Cheaper. So, without further ado, David, are you there?
I am here, Robert. Thank you so much for having me on. I was trying to think of how we could get Usher's confessions in here, but maybe we'll skip that.
You know what? Post-production, man. I can put anything in. And I live in Atlanta, and he lives a couple of blocks away, so maybe I can get him to come in and actually do it in the background.
Perfect. That sounds like a good game plan.
So first of all, congratulations on getting married, man.
Oh, well, thank you. I just it was quite an adventure. We got actually hit by the tsunami in Hawaii on the honeymoon.
My God.
And I actually posted relatively recently a story about me sort of getting into a fight in first class. I'm not a big fighter, but I sort of got into a fight in first class. Little story I just posted about that. But the wedding is amazing. Excited to be married, and thank you for asking.
Well, you had the woman who was just giving you a hard time in first class that you had to throw a pillow, right?
I did throw a pillow at her, yeah. They wouldn't switch. We're on our honeymoon. Come on, it's ridiculous. We're on our honeymoon, and we had two different seats in first class. And they just said, just let people know. They'll switch for you. You just say you're on your honeymoon. Okay. This lady would not move. She would not move. So I ended up cursing and throwing a pillow, and it worked. So that's a lesson for all the kids at home. If you don't get your way, just complain and cause a problem or throw a pillow, and it usually works.
It seems to work, right? All right, so,
exactly.
First of all, thanks again for agreeing to do this. You've become quite the celebrity interviewer these days, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. I mean, you've got some amazing, amazing people that you've interviewed, which really is a testament to them trusting you. So what I thought we could do today is first start off by talking about this lifestyle design that you have and you've created for yourself. And then in the second part of the interview, for our people who are Jet Set Money members, we can talk about how you've sort of figured out how to monetize this whole passion thing. So let's start off with a little bit of background.
Sure.
I understand that you started out in television. Could you sort of take us from college to how you wound up in the world of television?
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a crazy story, and a lot of it is a lot clearer, like most people in retrospect. I really didn't have a game plan or anything. I was saying I was going to do this and then that and then this, and then to get to there, I really didn't have a plan like that. And I've always been really fascinated by media in all forms, whether it be magazines, TV, broadcasting, whatever. When I was a little kid, I would kind of run around and have a little microphone and pretend I was announcing play-by-play at hockey games despite no hockey game being on. So that was a little bit creepy on one hand and also a little foreshadowing on the other. And when I graduated, I went to Washington University in St. Louis with a degree in women's studies. So straight white male in women's studies, there's not a lot of those.
Were you trying to pick up chicks? I mean, how'd you wind up in that world?
I don't know. I was I always get that question too. It's funny. I took one class. I guess I've always kind of been a proponent of doing things differently. Doing things a little bit outside the box, literally. And I didn't know what I was going to do after college. I took one women's studies class. I played hockey in college, and I was also in a fraternity, so this stuff doesn't necessarily all mesh together. And I took one class, thought I was going to hate it, ended up loving it, and said, you know what, I've got 4 years to go to something that I find interesting, class every day. I find this interesting, I'm going to do it. And I think that's been really a way that I've kind of lived my life as well, is not kind of trying to conform, but trying to find things that sort of get me going. And what happened was after college, I really didn't have a game plan. A lot of people wanted me to take in my family like traditional jobs and work in real estate or become a lawyer or something like that. It just wasn't in my DNA to do something like that. And so I was originally going to move to California and work at a hockey rink and do marketing for them. But 2 weeks before I moved out there, the rink closed and became a parking lot. So I'm like, great, now what do I do? And what ended up happening was this interesting blessing and curse is that I'd interned all over the place. I interned at the now defunct FHM magazine in New York, and I had interned at CBS Sports in Los Angeles. I've been trying all kinds of different things to sort of find my passion, if you will. And I got brought in on a pro inline hockey league that had just come to St. Louis, which is completely random. So basically they needed someone to do stuff for free. So I was a great candidate, being like living at home and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They needed like a jack of all trades who could do a variety of different things that loved the sport, and I loved hockey. So I was brought in on this and ended up doing everything across the board, and it was really like an entrepreneurial MBA because I did everything from cleaning the bathrooms to eventually ending up with a radio show in St. Louis called Get in Line, and that's when I really, really continued to kind of fall in love with broadcasting when it all started that way. And so I did pro inline hockey for 2 years, a little over 2 years. Was ready to move on. You know, Robert, I'm sure you've been like that in cases where sometimes you're doing something and you're just like, there's no massive story. It's just more like, I'm ready to do something else. Like, this isn't what I'm going to do the rest of my life. And I think that's okay. And I think sometimes people are scared of that, you know?
Yeah, because we want to hang on to what we know, what we're secure with. And, you know, the unknown is more fearful.
Exactly. And pro inline hockey was working in a sense of that I had figured out how to sign sponsorships, and that was my main revenue source for pro inline hockey. They were mostly local sponsorships, but I was working with everything from Pepsi to Anheuser-Busch, locally where I'm from in St. Louis, Missouri. So there was money being generated, but I can tell you the big lesson here, and I think this is important, was life's way too short to be working with jackasses. Mm-hmm. And for me, there was a lot of people involved that were not going anywhere, either with different things in the organization that was really kind of a drain on myself. You know, they just were those type of exhausting, I call them negabots, right? The people that wake up and when it's 85, they're complaining it's not 86, you know?
Right.
And so I wanted to move on and do something that essentially excited me more, and also I could do a little bit more under my own control. And that's where the Rise to the Top was born. Was originally it was created, as you mentioned, as a local television show in St. Louis, Missouri. I had no TV experience, but I'd learned from radio that there was this interesting model where essentially you could either trade or purchase cheap TV time.
Yep.
To start. So, I mean, it's not nothing, kind of like what the late night infomercials would do,
yep.
right?
Yep.
But instead of an infomercial, you actually do a show, right?
But like a real show.
Like a real show.
Not like a show where, you're selling hangnail cure.
Right. Like the goal was not to sell anything. The goal was to do a talk show. In the original days, it was a talk show about entrepreneurship, right? Mm-hmm. So it'd be a combination of segments and interviews. And I brought in a lot of local people because it was locally based in St. Louis. So I brought in everyone from the founder of Build-A-Bear Workshops to the founder of Worldwide Technology. So I'd bring in guests, but we produced and created and did everything. We and I say kind of a royal we because I would hire contractors to do this, but we had to do everything. I mean, sponsorships, advertising, negotiating the TV deal. And, looking back, it was an interesting choice to go with traditional TV at the time because that was in mid-2008 when internet was already booming.
So, most of our podcast listeners are people, just to give you sort of a little demo on them, they're people who've read The 4-Hour Work Week. They fell in love with the concept of lifestyle design, but they're having a challenge putting it all together. What do you think is the most important element for someone to consider when redesigning their life into their passion?
It's a great question, and it's something that